The beginning of the pandemic. The day the world had no idea what was coming. Imagine an ordinary winter morning. The calendar reads December 2019. Millions of people are heading to work, attending school, and making plans for the new year. Airports are crowded with travelers. Tourists are taking photos in front of famous landmarks. Major cities are alive with their usual rhythm. No one realizes that humanity is only weeks away from an event that will change the lives of nearly every person on Earth. An event that would later be remembered as the greatest pandemic of the 21st century. It all began in the Chinese city of Wuhan. At the time, Wuhan was a modern metropolis with a population of more than 11 million people. It was home to major factories, universities, research centers, and an international airport. Every day, thousands of people moved through the city, unaware that an unknown virus was already spreading among them. The first cases seemed ordinary. People arrived at hospitals with high fevers, persistent coughs, and difficulty breathing. At first, doctors believed they were dealing with seasonal pneumonia or a severe case of influenza. But it quickly became clear that this was something different. Some patients lost the ability to breathe normally within days. Their lungs became severely inflamed, and even experienced doctors struggled to understand why the usual treatments had little effect. The number of patients continued to grow. By the end of December, Chinese doctors noticed a disturbing pattern. Many of the infected had some connection to the Huanan seafood market. The market sold not only seafood but also a variety of live wild animals. This immediately raised concerns. History had already shown that dangerous viruses could sometimes jump from animals to humans. That was how diseases such as SARS and MERS had first appeared. Yet no one knew exactly what they were facing. On December 31, 2019, China officially informed the World Health Organization about an outbreak of pneumonia caused by an unknown source. For most people around the world, the announcement barely attracted attention. Life continued as usual. Families bought New Year's gifts, travelers booked vacations, and millions prepared to celebrate the arrival of 2020. But while holiday lights illuminated the streets, a new virus was silently searching for its next victims. In early January, Chinese scientists successfully identified the cause of the mysterious illness. It was a previously unknown coronavirus. Coronaviruses were not new to science. Most of them caused nothing more than the common cold. But every so often, nature creates an exception. This new virus, later named SARS-CoV-2, would become one of those exceptions. Its most dangerous feature was its extraordinary ability to spread rapidly from person to person. Even more alarming, infected individuals could transmit the virus before they showed any symptoms. That made controlling the outbreak incredibly difficult. Imagine this. A person feels completely healthy. They ride the subway. They stop at a grocery store. They board an international flight. They hug their family members. They have no idea that they are already carrying a virus capable of changing the world. This invisible spread became one of the defining characteristics of the pandemic. While doctors fought to save the first patients, the virus had already begun its journey across the globe. In January 2020, China entered its Lunar New Year holiday. It is the largest annual human migration on Earth. Hundreds of millions of people travel to visit their families. Thousands of international flights depart for destinations around the world. And with those travelers, the virus traveled too. The first confirmed cases soon appeared in Thailand. Then Japan. South Korea. The United States. France, Germany, Australia. At that point, almost no one was talking about a global pandemic. Most governments believed the outbreak could be contained. But the virus was always one step ahead. Meanwhile, the situation inside Wuhan became increasingly desperate. Hospitals filled beyond capacity. Doctors worked around the clock. There were more patients than available beds. Some people waited for treatment in hospital corridors. Medical workers wore multiple layers of protective equipment. Deep marks formed on their faces from tight protective masks. Many doctors and nurses worked 16 to 18 hours a day. Some went weeks without seeing their families. They understood that every shift placed their own lives at risk. For the first time, the world saw heartbreaking images of exhausted healthcare workers collapsing from fatigue. Some fell asleep on hospital floors between emergencies. Those photographs spread across television screens and social media worldwide. Only then did many people realize that something extraordinary was happening. On January 23, 2020, Chinese authorities made an unprecedented decision. The city of Wuhan was placed under complete lockdown. A city of more than 11 million people was suddenly isolated from the rest of the country. Public transportation stopped. Railway stations closed. Flights were canceled. Roads were blocked. The world had never witnessed anything like it. Millions of people remained inside their homes. Silence replaced the usual sounds of the city. Empty highways. Closed shops. Nearly deserted streets. Only weeks earlier, Wuhan had been a vibrant, bustling city. Now it looked like the setting of a post-apocalyptic movie. Outside China, many believed the crisis would remain local. News reports about a mysterious virus seemed distant and unreal. Some people even joked about it on social media. But viruses do not recognize borders. They do not care about politics, economies, languages, or cultures. They need only one thing: a new host. And every single day, they found thousands more. Across the world, laboratories launched an unprecedented scientific effort. Researchers raced to understand exactly how this new virus infected human cells. Why did some people experience only mild symptoms? Why did others develop life-threatening pneumonia? Scientists worked day and night, knowing that every answer could save countless lives. It was during this time that the world first heard a new name: COVID-19, the disease caused by the novel coronavirus. At that moment, almost no one realized that this simple word would soon become one of the most recognized terms in modern history. Ahead lay nationwide lockdowns, closed international borders, face masks, empty airports, overwhelmed hospitals, a global economic crisis, and the race to develop vaccines at record speed. But in those first weeks of 2020, humanity still believed the danger would soon pass. Sadly, this was only the beginning. And before long, the entire world would discover that life would never be the same again. The world comes to a standstill by February 2020. What had once seemed like a distant outbreak was becoming impossible to ignore. Every morning, the number of confirmed cases was higher than the day before. Every evening, hospitals admitted more patients. The virus was spreading faster than scientists had expected. Countries began reporting their first outbreaks. At first, governments tried to isolate infected travelers and trace their contacts. Health officials believed they could stop the virus before it became a global disaster. But SARS-CoV-2 had one enormous advantage. It often spread silently. A person could feel perfectly healthy while unknowingly infecting friends, co-workers, family members, and complete strangers. The invisible enemy was already everywhere. Soon, hospitals in northern Italy became overwhelmed. Doctors faced impossible choices. Emergency rooms filled beyond capacity. Intensive care units ran out of beds. Medical staff worked without sleep, doing everything they could to save lives. Images from Italy shocked the world. Military trucks carrying coffins through the streets became one of the most unforgettable symbols of the pandemic. For the first time, people realized this virus was unlike anything they had seen in generations. Then came Spain, France, Germany, the United Kingdom, the United States. Within weeks, nearly every continent was fighting the same battle. On March 11, 2020, the World Health Organization officially declared COVID-19 a global pandemic. The announcement confirmed what millions had already feared. The outbreak was no longer a local emergency. It had become a worldwide crisis. Governments responded with extraordinary measures. International borders closed. Flights were canceled. Schools shut their doors. Universities switched to online classes. Concerts disappeared overnight. Professional sports leagues suspended their seasons. Tourist attractions became empty. Shopping malls closed. Restaurants locked their doors. Entire cities fell silent. For billions of people, daily life changed almost instantly. Working from home became the new normal. Children attended school through computer screens. Video calls replaced business meetings. Birthday parties, weddings, and family celebrations were canceled. People were told to stay inside their homes. Many countries introduced strict lockdowns. Police patrolled empty streets. Only grocery stores and pharmacies remained open. For the first time in modern history, much of humanity experienced the same restrictions at the same time. The world had pressed pause. Face masks quickly became one of the defining symbols of the pandemic. At first, many people questioned whether they were necessary. Soon, wearing a mask became mandatory in countless countries. Hand sanitizer appeared everywhere. People disinfected shopping carts, door handles, elevators, and even grocery packages. Every cough made strangers nervous. Every fever caused fear. No one knew exactly who might be infected. Meanwhile, hospitals fought a battle unlike anything they had experienced before. Doctors wore protective suits for hours at a time. Nurses comforted frightened patients whose families were not allowed to visit. Many people spent their final moments completely alone. Their loved ones could only say goodbye through phone calls or video screens. For healthcare workers, the emotional burden was enormous. They saved countless lives. But they also witnessed unimaginable loss. Some medical professionals became infected themselves. Others never returned home. Their sacrifice would never be forgotten. Scientists around the world worked around the clock. Thousands of researchers shared information faster than ever before. Laboratories analyzed the virus. Doctors tested existing medicines. Biotechnology companies began one of the fastest vaccine development programs in human history. Normally, creating a vaccine could take many years. Now, scientists hope to accomplish it in less than one. It was an extraordinary race against time. The economic consequences quickly became severe. Millions of businesses temporarily closed. Airlines grounded thousands of aircraft. Hotels stood empty. Factories slowed production. Global supply chains were disrupted. Unemployment rose in many countries. Entire industries struggled to survive. Financial markets experienced dramatic uncertainty. No one knew how long the crisis would last. Yet amid the fear, remarkable acts of kindness appeared everywhere. Neighbors delivered groceries to elderly people. Volunteers made protective equipment. Restaurants donated meals to healthcare workers. Scientists from different nations shared research instead of competing. Communities applauded doctors and nurses from their balconies every evening. The pandemic revealed both humanity's vulnerability and its compassion. At the same time, misinformation spread almost as quickly as the virus itself. Social media became flooded with rumors. False cures appeared online. Conspiracy theories gained millions of followers. Health experts had to fight two battles simultaneously. One against the virus, the other against misinformation. For ordinary families, life became filled with uncertainty. Parents worried about their children. Students wondered when schools would reopen. Small business owners feared losing everything they had built. Many people struggled with loneliness and anxiety after months of isolation. Mental health became another invisible consequence of the pandemic. Meanwhile, scientists continued learning more about COVID-19. They discovered that older adults and people with certain medical conditions faced the highest risk of severe illness. However, young and healthy individuals could also become seriously sick. The virus showed little mercy. Every day brought new discoveries. Every week changed medical understanding. Doctors constantly adapted their treatments as new evidence emerged. Despite the darkness, there was hope. Several vaccine candidates showed promising early results. Around the world, researchers believed they might finally have a way to slow the pandemic. But until vaccines became widely available, the virus continued to spread. Every country faced the same difficult question. How could they protect lives while keeping society functioning? There were no easy answers. Every decision carried enormous consequences. The world had entered a chapter unlike any in modern history. And although humanity had already endured months of uncertainty, the greatest scientific challenge was still ahead. The race for a vaccine had truly begun. The race against time, vaccines, new variants, and the debate over the virus's origin as 2020 drew to a close, the world had already spent months living under the shadow of COVID-19. Entire countries had experienced lockdowns. Millions of people had lost loved ones. Healthcare systems had been pushed to their limits. But despite the devastation, hope was beginning to emerge. In laboratories across the world, scientists were working around the clock. Never before in modern history had so many researchers, universities, pharmaceutical companies, and governments focused on solving the same problem at the same time. Their goal was simple: develop a safe and effective vaccine before the virus claimed even more lives. Normally, creating a vaccine can take many years. Scientists must carefully test every stage to ensure both safety and effectiveness. But this time, the world could not afford to wait. Thanks to decades of previous research on coronaviruses and unprecedented international cooperation, vaccine development moved at record speed. By the end of 2020, the first COVID-19 vaccines received emergency authorization in several countries. For many people, it felt like the beginning of the end. Healthcare workers were among the first to receive vaccinations. Soon afterward came elderly citizens, followed by millions of others. Around the globe, vaccination centers opened in stadiums, schools, hospitals, and community halls. Long lines formed outside clinics. Some people waited patiently for hours. Many believed the vaccines would finally allow life to return to normal. Scientists explained that vaccines trained the immune system to recognize the virus before real infection occurred. Although vaccinated people could still become infected, they were far less likely to develop severe illness or die from COVID-19. As vaccination campaigns expanded, hospitalizations began to decline in many countries. But the virus had another surprise. It was constantly changing. Viruses naturally mutate over time. Most mutations make little difference. Some even weaken a virus. But occasionally, a mutation gives the virus an advantage. That is exactly what happened. New variants began appearing across different parts of the world. The Alpha variant spread rapidly. Then came Beta, Gamma, and later, Delta. Each new variant raised fresh concerns. Some spread more easily. Others caused more severe disease. Scientists raced to study each one before it became dominant. Just when many countries believed the pandemic was finally coming under control, another variant appeared. Omicron. Unlike previous variants, Omicron spread with incredible speed. Within weeks, it reached dozens of countries. The number of daily infections broke records around the world. Fortunately, early studies suggested that although Omicron spread much faster, it generally caused less severe illness than Delta, especially among vaccinated individuals. Even so, hospitals once again faced enormous pressure because of the sheer number of infections. Throughout the pandemic, one question remained at the center of global debate. Where did the virus come from? Scientists proposed two main hypotheses. The first suggested that the virus naturally jumped from animals to humans, similar to previous coronavirus outbreaks such as SARS. This process, known as zoonotic spillover, has occurred many times throughout history. The second hypothesis suggested that the virus may have been linked to a laboratory incident involving coronavirus research in Wuhan. It is important to understand that, despite years of investigations, no definitive conclusion has been reached. Researchers, governments, and intelligence agencies have examined both possibilities. Some studies support a natural animal origin. Others argue that a laboratory-related incident cannot be completely ruled out. To this day, there is no internationally accepted, conclusive evidence proving either hypothesis beyond doubt. The debate continues among scientists and policymakers. What most experts agree on, however, is that understanding the origin of the virus is essential. Not to assign blame, but to reduce the risk of future pandemics. The pandemic also transformed science itself. Researchers shared data faster than ever before. Medical journals published discoveries within days. Artificial intelligence helped analyze enormous amounts of information. International cooperation reached levels rarely seen before. The crisis accelerated medical innovation by years. COVID-19 also changed everyday life. Remote work became common. Online shopping expanded rapidly. Virtual meetings replaced many business trips. Schools developed new ways of teaching. Telemedicine became more widespread. The pandemic reshaped society in ways that continue to influence the world today. Yet even as vaccines became widely available, the virus did not disappear. Instead, humanity gradually learned how to live with it. Doctors became better at treating patients. Hospitals improved their preparedness. Vaccines and antiviral medicines dramatically reduced the number of severe cases. The fear that once dominated every headline slowly began to fade. But the lessons remained. The pandemic reminded humanity how deeply connected the modern world truly is. A virus that appeared in one city could reach nearly every country within weeks. It showed that scientific cooperation, transparent communication, and strong public health systems are not luxuries. They are essential for global security. Still, one important question remained unanswered. If the worst of the pandemic was ending, how did it finally lose its grip on the world? And why did COVID-19 stop dominating everyday life, even though the virus itself never completely disappeared? The answer would mark the final chapter in one of the most extraordinary stories in modern history. Living with the virus, the end of the pandemic and the lessons for humanity by 2022, something remarkable had begun to happen. The virus had not disappeared. People were still becoming infected every day. Hospitals continued treating COVID-19 patients. Yet, little by little, the world was changing. The daily headlines that had once reported millions of new infections were beginning to fade. Countries started lifting restrictions. Borders reopened. Airplanes once again filled the skies. Schools welcomed students back into classrooms. Concerts, sporting events, and festivals returned. For the first time in years, millions of people began rebuilding the lives they had put on hold. But one question remained. If the virus was still spreading, why did the pandemic appear to be ending? The answer was not simple. It was the result of several factors working together. First, billions of people had developed immunity. Some gained protection through vaccination. Others developed immunity after recovering from infection. Many had both vaccination and previous exposure to the virus, creating stronger protection against severe disease. Second, the virus itself had changed. Like all viruses, SARS-CoV-2 continued to evolve. Over time, some variants became extremely contagious but, on average, caused less severe illness than earlier variants such as Delta. This did not mean COVID-19 had become harmless. It could still cause serious disease, especially among older adults and people with weakened immune systems. However, for many healthy individuals, the risk of severe illness had become much lower than during the first years of the pandemic. Doctors had also learned a great deal. In 2020, physicians were fighting an unknown disease. By 2022, they understood far more about how COVID-19 affected the body. Hospitals had better treatment protocols. New antiviral medicines became available. Doctors knew when patients needed oxygen, steroids, or other life-saving therapies. Medical knowledge had advanced at an extraordinary pace. Vaccines also continued to improve. Updated booster doses were developed to provide better protection against newer variants. Although no vaccine could completely prevent every infection, they remained highly effective at reducing hospitalizations and deaths. Gradually, governments shifted their strategy. Instead of trying to eliminate every case, many countries focused on preventing severe illness and protecting the most vulnerable members of society. Life slowly returned to normal. People traveled again. Restaurants filled with customers. Families reunited after years apart. Children played together without the fear that had once dominated daily life. Yet the pandemic left permanent marks on humanity. Millions of families had lost loved ones. Healthcare workers carried emotional scars from years spent on the front lines. Many people continued experiencing long-term health problems after infection, a condition known as long COVID. Researchers are still studying why some patients continue to experience fatigue, breathing difficulties, memory problems, and other symptoms months after recovering. The pandemic also revealed weaknesses that many countries had ignored. Some healthcare systems lacked enough hospital beds. Others struggled to obtain protective equipment. Global supply chains proved more fragile than anyone had imagined. Governments began investing more heavily in pandemic preparedness, disease surveillance, and scientific research. The scientific achievements of this period were extraordinary. Vaccines were developed in record time. International researchers shared discoveries at unprecedented speed. Medical technology advanced faster than almost anyone believed possible. The crisis demonstrated what humanity could accomplish when nations, scientists, doctors, and engineers worked toward a common goal. Yet COVID-19 also exposed another challenge: misinformation. False rumors spread across the internet almost as quickly as the virus itself. Some people rejected scientific evidence. Others promoted dangerous false cures. The pandemic showed that accurate information can save lives just as surely as medicine. Today, SARS-CoV-2 has not vanished. It continues to circulate around the world. Like influenza and several other respiratory viruses, COVID-19 remains part of everyday life. Most infections are now far less disruptive than they were during the early years of the pandemic, but health experts continue to monitor new variants carefully. Scientists remain vigilant because viruses never stop evolving. Could another pandemic happen? History suggests the answer is yes. Humanity has faced devastating outbreaks before. The Black Death, smallpox, the Spanish flu, HIV/AIDS, COVID-19. Each generation hopes it will never face another global health crisis. Yet nature often has other plans. The question is no longer whether another dangerous virus will emerge. The real question is whether the world will be better prepared when it does. The COVID-19 pandemic changed history. It reshaped economies. It transformed education. It accelerated scientific innovation. It altered the way people work, travel, communicate, and think about public health. Some children grew up wearing face masks. Graduation ceremonies took place online. Families celebrated birthdays through video calls. Simple acts, such as shaking hands or hugging loved ones, suddenly carried new meaning. These memories will remain with millions of people for the rest of their lives. More importantly, the pandemic reminded humanity of a simple truth. Despite our differences, we share the same planet. A microscopic virus demonstrated that borders cannot stop every threat. International cooperation, scientific research, transparency, and rapid communication are essential for protecting future generations. The story of COVID-19 is not merely the story of a virus. It is the story of doctors who refuse to give up, scientists who worked day and night, nurses who comforted frightened patients, families who endured unimaginable loss, communities that helped one another through uncertainty, and billions of ordinary people who adapted to extraordinary circumstances. The pandemic will forever remain one of the defining events of the 21st century. Future generations will study it in history books. Scientists will continue searching for answers about its origins. Governments will analyze the decisions that saved lives and the mistakes that cost them. But one lesson stands above all the others. Humanity is stronger when it works together. COVID-19 tested the world like few events before it. It brought fear, uncertainty, grief, and sacrifice. But it also revealed courage, compassion, resilience, and the incredible power of science. The pandemic may have changed the world forever. Yet it also proved that even in humanity's darkest moments, hope can survive. And sometimes, hope is the most powerful medicine of all.